Thanks, Philip, and welcome to Today in Putnam County. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're having a great weekend. My goal with the show is to keep you informed on all the things happening in our county and to interview some of the people that are making them happen. So let's get started this morning. This morning's show is all about our county budget, which will be voted on July 29th by our county commissioners. My guest this morning probably has more knowledge about that than anyone I know, and that's none other than Putnam County Commission Chairman Mr. Ben Rodgers, who also serves as the chairman of the Budget Committee. Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, Randy.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Budget time in Tennessee.
It's that time.
It is. It doesn't seem like we much more get finished with one than we're starting another one, but that's part of it. For those folks that might not know, your daytime job puts you into a position to know as much about budgets and county government as anyone I know. You work for what we call CTAS. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I can. CTAS is the County Technical Assistance Service. It's an agency under the umbrella of the Institute for Public Service, which is within the University of Tennessee. And I've been there 14 years. Next month, I have accounting and budget, or accounting and finance background in college and education. And it kind of helped me with this position to assist counties with accounting issues and budgeting, which is a lot of their issues, especially this time of year. So I work with 13 counties across the Upper Cumberland, and most of them rely on me for some kind of budget expertise.
So in your day-to-day job, you're traveling around the Upper Cumberland, you're talking to these folks, you're helping them with their budgets. Gave you a lot of experience to become a county commissioner here, ultimately the chairman of the commission and the chairman of the budget committee. You also followed in your uncle's footsteps. I got to throw that in.
Sure.
Billy Rodgers, great person, good friend of mine for many years, was county commissioner for many years, served as chairman of the commission for multiple terms, and about all the time he was on the commission, they might have been a couple years, but most time he was on the commission, he was the chairman of the budget committee also.
Right.
How does it make you feel to be able to follow in his footsteps?
It makes me feel good. I'm humbled by the fact I can never achieve what he accomplished. He was a walking encyclopedia for governments, county governments across Tennessee, and with Putnam County he served 27 years as commissioner. And the things he was accomplished with those commissions were things that I strive to do a tenth of, because he set the standard for public servants. And not only with my agency at CTAS, he was the same position I am now. He set a standard there, but he set a standard for all public servants, all officials, commissioners included, to strive for, and that was with integrity and knowledge and diplomacy.
Probably one of the best county commissioners in my career that I had the pleasure of meeting. Let's talk about the budget process.
Sure.
That's what today's show is about. Budget committee, 9 members, appointed in January by me.
Mm-hmm.
Can you kind of walk us through the process that once those committee members are appointed, how the budget process works?
Sure. We met for the first time in April, and at that first meeting we elected the chair and the vice chair, and they appointed me as the chair. And we started in May, really, with our first meeting with the information that you had gathered, you and Ms. Francis, from the departments across the county, and with their budget requests. And so they submit those requests to the county mayor's office. You consolidate those requests, submit it to the budget committee for our review, and we start working diligently through those budgets, analyzing, discussing, and figuring out what are wants and what are needs. And we're responsible for that. And people say that, that's a tough job. Well, it is a tough job determining who should get what as a committee, what we recommend. But it's our responsibility to figure out what do we actually need and what maybe are wants we can put off down the road.
A lot of folks may not understand, but by state law, the job of setting the budget is the county commission.
It is.
It's not mine as the county mayor. It's not department heads. It's not anybody else in county government. It's the county commission. That's the one big thing that county commissioners do. And you're right. It's a tough job. Putnam County was in an odd position this year, I'd say. We had 3 increases in the budget that basically the commission had no control over. Jail medical cost increased by about $850,000. Health insurance for the employees went up about 6%. Annual step raises for the county employees. So going into this budget, the commission had added about $1.6 million in expenditures before you ever heard the first budget request.
Right. We were already behind going into the year, and we had not spoken with any department about their needs. And that is a different situation for a lot of counties. And the health insurance you cannot control. The medical contract occurred during the middle of the year last year, and we had to use fund balance for fiscal year 18-19 to finish paying that that new contract out for fiscal year. So we were behind the 8 ball starting.
Odd year,
Odd year.
to say the least.
Yes.
A lot of folks say, Randy, our county's growing, we're booming, there's all kinds of construction going on. Why are the revenues not keeping up with all the booming? And to explain that a little bit, I want to talk about revenue this morning. It's not that simple. The county government's divided into funds. You got county general, where most of the departments and elected officials, offices and court systems and the jail and all that kind of stuff comes into. Then you got solid waste is out here in its own fund, economic development, parks and recreations, debt service, schools, roads, just keep naming them. They're all in their own separate funds. And each one of them is funded separately in a different way. Some of them get property tax, some of them don't. Well, we've been setting records with sales tax, as you well know. Each year for the past several years, sales tax revenue continues to go up, hotel motel tax continues to go up. So we're setting records in those where the economy is booming. But in a lot of those funds, especially county general, they don't get any hotel motel tax. They see very little sales tax. Their revenue comes from 115 or 120 other sources that revenues necessarily are not going up.
Right. And our sales tax has been going up, and that's great. But like you said, a small portion of that's benefiting our general fund, and property tax is the main funding source for our general fund. So we had $4 million roughly in requests for our general fund, extra than what we had last year, and our property tax has not grown by $4 million.
No,
it's not even growing by $1 million. You know, and so it's one of those things where we got to utilize other revenue sources and hope the state hasn't changed anything for our appropriation of revenue. So we deal with several factors on that general fund side.
and when you have the sales tax and hotel motel tax growing, but not being able to move that into the other funds and it going towards debt service and parks recreation and so forth, those funds aren't having any problems.
Right.
We didn't have to do anything with those funds this year. They had revenue. We didn't have a lot of increases in those funds, but they still were okay. Basically, county general, schools, and roads were where the three big requests came from. About $12.5 million in requests this year, which is more than I ever remember in my time in office, or even previously as a department head.
You've been here 30 years.
I've been here over 30 years, and I never remember having that big of an increase.
Oh, it's rare for a county, even this size or smaller, to have that big of an increase from budget to budget, from year to year. And of course, $8 million of that is the school request, and $4 million for the general fund, or three plus, and then about $1 million in the highway department.
Yeah.
So it's rare, and we're in a different type of year, and we got a lot of work to still do.
We do. We're talking with Ben Rodgers this morning on Today in Putnam County here on News Talk 107.7 and 1400 The Hub. I'm Randy Porter, your host. Coming up after the break, more with County Commission Chairman Ben Rodgers. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Today in Putnam County. I'm your host, County Mayor Randy Porter. Hope you're having a great Saturday morning. Today, my guest is Putnam County Commission Chairman Ben Rodgers, who's also the chairman of the Budget Committee for Putnam County. Ben, we've been talking about the budget. We've been talking about revenue. Our penny rate went up about $4,000 this year, which for our listeners, that's what a penny of property tax brings in. So we're at about $166,000 per penny. But most folks may not realize that property tax only makes up about, 28-30% of our budget.
Right.
So we have to depend on a lot of other revenues, as we were talking sales tax, hotel, motel tax, been setting records. But due to some changes in state laws, we've actually been hurt on some revenues. One of those was the hall income tax. State legislature did away with it. Good for the citizens, but when you have that coming in as county revenue, about $500,000. They changed the way that public utilities are assessed on their taxes, lost another $500,000. Court fines, new law that I just heard about, that now your driver's license can't be suspended if you don't pay your court fines.
Right.
So there's another $100,000. So there's over $1 million in revenue that's normally used to fund the county general departments, most of the offices and the departments that we don't have anymore. So it makes it difficult when you're losing revenue like that. You got to make it up somewhere, so that comes with property taxes, right?
Right, and the $1 million we're losing in general fund is not going to be made up through growth in the property tax through the penny. And the penny growing $4,000 from year to year is wonderful for our county. That means the assessor of property and his staff are doing their job appraising and finding things maybe they didn't find, or making sure new construction is being added.
Right. That's
wonderful increase. It's just not meeting what we've been asked to provide by our department heads. And we've, over the last, since you and I have been in office, we're coming together in 2014, our budget's increased over 30%.
It has.
And we've been able to maintain those increases through revenue. These revenues you mentioned that are no longer there are going to hurt us going forward.
Right.
And the state, they do a great job trying to help us, but sometimes factors come in where they basically give us an unfunded mandate, as people like to say, and we're facing that with the hall income tax and changing the assessment of public utilities. And of course, the fines and fees in the clerks of court office are lower because of the driver's license change.
Right.
So it's going to affect our budget. We got to find a way to make up for it or cut out other expenses.
Other expenditures, right. We had a lot of big requests this year. We were talking about $12.5 million in expenditure requests from all the different schools, roads, county general, all those folks. You got all those big requests coming at you. You said, as chairman of the budget committee, how difficult is it to decide what you're going to fund?
It's a process that takes a lot of thought and research on those requests and what's important to that department and for our citizens. And so there's 9 members of the budget committee. Just like any other committee in Putnam County, it's a majority vote. If all 9 are there, it's going to be 5 voters that decide on that committee what gets recommended to the full commission for approval. And so basically 5 people on that committee control what is funded to be recommended to the commission. And there's we go through the voting process on everything we have to deal with in the budget through every department for all the requests. And of course we address the increases, and we have to say yes or no, or we make decisions on cutting something as a committee, and we vote on that. We one person, me as chairman, doesn't say, well, we're cutting this amount from the budget. If somebody makes a motion to cut an amount from some department, we vote on that. If 5 people vote yes to cut it, then that's cut out of the budget, and that will be recommended to the commission. So it's difficult because you're dealing with so many good public servants in our county and department heads. We know what they're asking for. They feel like they really need.
Right.
But sometimes you have to say no.
And saying no is difficult. Once the budget committee met all these times, ultimately the final outcome coming out of the committee was they cut several million of the request out, but they did fund an additional $2.8 million to county general, $2.3 million to schools, come out to about a 22-cent tax increase. Out of those extra funds that were committed, can you give us kind of an overview of what they did approve?
Sure. Schools ended up getting 8 cents that was recommended by the budget committee, 8 cents on the property tax levy increase, and that's about $1.3 million. There was another $1 million the committee voted to appropriate to capital projects for school use. And we let them decide. I believe out of their $8 million they were short in their budget, 1.6 was capital projects. We're giving them $1 million. So we're going to let the school board decide which projects they want to pay for out of that $1 million. So they got $2.3 million, and they also received a little over $2 million, I think $2.2 million, through the basic education program, which is from the state funding for the school system. So really, they're over $4 million, and that's
a pretty big increase for 1 year.
It is, and I know they're fortunate and thankful for that. But they come to us with such a shortfall. And they felt like they're so far behind at this point that they were wanting $8 million, and they knew it was going to be really tough to give them 50 cents
right
on the property tax increase to cover that $8 million. So that was $2.3 million. The jail received 2 jailers and with step raises, some other things, $897,000. The sheriff's office, 2 SROs are added, 1 deputy, a part-time investigator, and some cars. That's going to be $571,000. Employee benefits is $548,000.
Yeah.
And EMS received $271,000 additional. They're getting a full-time training employee, which is going to be able to do in-house training instead of sending our paramedics and EMTs out other training. The jail commissary received a $205,000 increase, and so other departments got increases, less amounts under $50,000.
Ultimately, that came down to a 22-cent tax increase, as is proposed to the full commission now. We haven't had a tax increase since 2012. Our tax rate currently, which amazes me, is about the same it was in 1969.
Sure.
So folks probably don't realize that we've been very blessed over the years to keep a very low property tax rate. It's not the tax rate that's been increasing over the years, it's the value of their property,
Right.
which is assessed by the property assessor each year and make a decision on what that piece of property or home is assessed at and what the value of it is. I hear people say, why don't you increase taxes 2 or 3 cents a year and not make it any big increase? I've been in county government for a long time. You deal with all these counties. Commissions don't do that, though. Any explanation for why?
My feeling is commissioners often run on the platform, we're not going to increase your taxes. And as I said, I deal with 13 counties, and that means I work with 13 commissions. There are those that call me, and a lot of them do. And I attend a lot of commission meetings outside of Putnam County at request of those counties. And you still have those commissioners that vote no to everything. And so when they run, well, I'm not going to increase your taxes, there's no way they consider increasing taxes every year. And really, my opinion, if you had a revenue increase every year, you wouldn't be trying to play catch up with 22 cents.
Right.
However, in Putnam County, we've had so much growth. You send us a monthly report every month about how many housing or how many permits are coming into the county. We're growing, and we've been able to sustain the growth so far. It's just we've got a lot of requests that's hit us this year.
We've been able to sustain through that growth the expenditures that we've had, even with our county growing like it was. So we really didn't need that tax increase before.
Right.
But in hindsight, and there's an argument to be made there that with folks, and I understand it, that increase it 2 or 3 cents and put that money away, and then when it comes time for you to need it, it's there. That's difficult in county government, state government, federal government. They usually find a way to spend it somewhere and not save it.
Right, and if you do 3 cents the last 10 years, you're the 30-cent increase over 10 years.
Yeah.
And now you're facing 22 cents in 1 year, and they don't do that because the citizens will say, why are you raising our taxes if we don't need it? And the commissioners then will say no.
Yep. So it's all a big process that we have to work through with 24 people
Right.
sitting on the county commission making
Right.
that decision. So have a lot of different personalities and,
That's right.
and different outlooks. You're listening to Today in Putnam County on News Talk 107.7 and 1400 The Hub. I'm Randy Porter, your host. Coming up after the break, more with County Commission Chairman Ben Rodgers. So please stay with us. Welcome back to Today in Putnam County. I'm your host, County Mayor Randy Porter. Hope you're having a great Saturday morning. Today my guest is Putnam County Commission Chairman Ben Rodgers, who's also the chairman of the Budget Committee this year. We've been talking about the county budget and tax rate that's coming up with the budget. Looking at a 22-cent tax increase this year, Ben. Seems like a lot of counties are having that same issue, though. You deal with 13 other counties besides Putnam. Are you seeing that same scenario in other counties?
We are. I met with the Pickett County Commission on Monday night, and they voted to raise taxes 74 cents.
74 cents.
74 cents, and I have not seen that. Well, not that high. 73 cents. Clay County had a tax increase back in 2007, and they were in a very tight situation, as Pickett County is, with cash and having the available funds to provide services. So 74 cents in Pickett County. Warren County Monday night as well voted to raise taxes 28 cents. Then you have Smith County last week voted to raise taxes 59 cents.
Wow.
And that's not happening in that county. You've got a few more counties. DeKalb is going to vote on a tax increase next week, I believe, 28 cents. Van Buren, spoke with them just yesterday or the other day, and they said they're looking at 28 cents potentially. They're going to have three options for the commission, but one of those is 28 cents. Macon County's looking at 16 cents. And so right this year, a lot of counties are looking at raising taxes. Overton and White passed their budgets with no increase. Jackson will, I don't think they're looking at a tax increase. They're in pretty good shape. So several counties in Upper Cumberland, 8 to 10 counties in Upper Cumberland are either voting to raise taxes or already have or going to.
Any idea what's causing all the counties kind of to have to do that? Is there something out there that, I know we're growing in Putnam County, and trying to keep up with the growth is difficult. Some of those other counties are very small and have a difficult time being able to survive. Is that the issue with them, or is it something else?
There's different situations. Some of them are having jail issues and where they don't have enough room to house those inmates, so they're sending those inmates to other counties, and that costs money. And then you got sales tax revenue that might not be coming in steadily to catch up with some services and growth. Property tax, our property values here in Putnam County are really good, and there's property values around the Upper Cumberland that are growing. They're just not growing at the pace they need to. And certain counties have not done anything. But Warren County hadn't raised taxes in, I believe, 18 years.
Wow.
So if you don't find a way to find some revenue, whether it's through property taxes, wheel tax, increase the sales tax percentage if you can, then you're going to look at property tax to make up for that where you haven't. Fenchurch County a few years ago didn't raise taxes for 23 years, and I believe about 6-7 years ago they raised taxes to build a jail.
That's amazing that you can go that many years without raising. Of course, a lot of those counties, to be fair, have a wheel tax that Putnam County does not have. Looked at some of those counties, the wheel tax is pretty high. Where you pay a wheel tax every time you go get your license renewed, and for the vehicle, and it's for all vehicles that are licensed. So Putnam County doesn't have that. I know it's been voted down 2 or 3 times over the years, the last 20, 30 years. Any idea why? In your history in your uncle's history?
And of course, I've been doing this 14 years now as a consultant for county government, and 5 as a commissioner, and it's been the same every time. The citizens don't want another tax, and they call their commissioners, and they should call their commissioners, and say, we don't want another tax. And the commissioner says, well, we're really taxing those property owners, and so we're trying to make a fair tax. The most fair tax out there is a sales tax. To me, in my opinion, and another fair tax is a wheel tax, and so it's been voted down a lot because people don't want another tax.
But yet they voted it in these other counties. Almost every one of the other counties around us have. It's kind of
what happened there probably is those counties did a really good job of explaining and being transparent of what those funds are actually going to provide the citizens. You could do a general wheel tax for funding, say $30, but all you want to say is, well, we just need more money.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have a reason for that. So if you need to build a school, or need to build a jail, or need to improve roads, county roads, you can explain that to the people, sell it to them, and make sure they understand it. And more likely, they won't petition it if the commission votes on it because it's subject to petition.
Make a good job of explaining it. County commissioners have a tough job trying to balance between a growing county with increases like ours and being able to keep up with the growth, and then balancing that with what our citizens can afford when it comes to taxes. That's a tough job as a commissioner. How do you make that happen?
It is tough, but that's the role of a commissioner. When they decided to run for the office of commissioner, they put their name on the ballot, they got elected, they are called to serve, and they are now a public servant. And their job, number one job, is to approve a budget. They also have a right to set policies and procedures in some formats, and they vote on other stuff. But the responsibility they have now gained from being a commissioner is so great because you're dealing with taxpayer money. And I've heard some commissioners in other areas or here that are frustrated because they get phone calls. And I say, don't be frustrated. That's what you signed up for.
That's what you ran. Yeah, that's part of the being a commissioner or elected official.
That's right. So you're a public servant now, and your job's to listen to your constituents and be honest with them and do the best you can to vote not only the way they want you to, but for what's right for the county. You can't always satisfy your citizens because it may not be what's right for the county. So you have the department heads come in, and it's the same thing. You have to look at those department heads and say, look, we know you need this. We understand what your needs are. We just can't do it right now. We don't want to burden our taxpayers more than we have to. And we hope that our officials understand that, and they have the citizens in the back of their minds and their hearts when they ask for this money, because The commission's not going to raise taxes just to raise taxes. They're raising taxes to provide services. So we hope our department heads are mindful of that.
Absolutely. And just as a footnote, the 22-cent tax increase works out to about $55 a year for a $100,000 home. If it's a $200,000 home, it's about $110.
Right.
So most homes fall within that area. I think our median home is about $180,000.
Right.
So coming up July 29th, County Commission meeting, 6 o'clock at the courthouse. If you're interested, come by. The commission will be making a decision hopefully that night. Ben, I want to thank you for being on the show and for the great job you do as both chairman of the commission, chairman of the budget committee, and also for being our CTAS rep. You're a great asset to us, and I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you, Randy. I appreciate that.
Ben Rodgers, Putnam County Commission chairman. It's time now for what's happening. Part of the show where I keep you informed on some of the special events going on in Putnam County. Today from 3:30 to 7, having a kids carnival at 210 East Broad Street. Family fun with games, music, and prizes. It's sponsored by Imagine Foundry. Thursday, August the 1st, Putnam County Fair starts with the antique tractor pull. The fair runs through August 10th with a different event each night. Saturday, August the 17th at 11:30 a.m., Bank of Putnam County's grand opening of its new corporate headquarters in Monterey. You got to come and see this. It's a great addition to downtown Monterey. Lots of free food and prizes with a concert featuring country music star Lori Morgan. Also on Saturday, August the 17th at 9 p.m., it's the 7th annual Lady Cavs 5K Glow Run. It'll be at the Cookville High School, and it's sponsored by the Lady Cavs basketball team. And finally, on Saturday, September the 7th, starting at 5 o'clock to 9:30, it's Fall Fun Fest on our historic courthouse square, sponsored by Cityscape. Our headliner this year is Diamond Rio. Should be a great night of music and fun. And finally, Putnam County in the news this week. In case you missed it, massive flooding hit our county last Saturday night, causing damage to several of our county roads. Road Supervisor Randy Jones and his crew did a great job getting all our roads back open by Monday. Portobello, the new $150 million tile company, they're coming to Baxter in Putnam County, and it moved one step closer to reality with the Industrial Development Board approving the project. The new facility is scheduled to be built on the old racetrack property at the Baxter exit just off of Interstate 40. A new report out from the Tennessee Commission on Aging predicts our population of people over the age of 65 will grow 28% over the next 10 years. The report also shows some interesting facts like 27% of that age group live alone, only 53% of them take a flu shot each year, 18% of them are veterans, and probably the most shocking to me is that 41% of them have 4 or more chronic diseases. Cookville City is in the process of pre-approving the contractor to start its new police station at Neal Street and Old Walton Road. 39,000 square foot building is expected to cost about $14 million, with its construction hoping to be getting underway this year. Fred's in Monterey will be closing its main store, but the pharmacy will remain open, closing as part of a nationwide plan with 129 stores turning the lights out. Folks, that's our show for today. I want to thank my guest, County Commission Chairman Ben Rodgers, for being here. Hope you will join us every Saturday morning at 10:30 for Today in Putnam County on News Talk 107.7 and 1400 The Hub. You can also download the WHUB app and listen to us anywhere on your cell phone. If you missed any of our shows, go to my website at randyporter.org. As always, thanks to Brett Carl Fleshman for producing my show each week. I'm County Mayor Randy Porter, hoping you have a great rest of your Saturday, and may God continue to bless our great county.